Hello, brains. If you're neurodivergent, have you ever felt like a fraud? Like maybe you got lucky with your success or that people are gonna find out you're not actually that smart? If so, today we're gonna talk about why this happens to ADHD and autistic adults and what we can do about it. Hi, I am Jag, just interrupting a bit to explain some things. As late-diagnosed autistic and ADHD, still figuring things out one day at a time, I use AI to help me create videos so I can share my message more clearly. It helps me concentrate better, stay organized, but also tap into my creativity. Welcome to the channel, I am new here. My channel's still growing. So, please be patient with me as I learn. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. That will help me grow and continue advocating to other newcomers that were as lost as I was when I first discovered I was autistic too. Your support means a lot. So why would a neurodivergent person feel like a fraud? Well, according to the data, they're more likely to experience something called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is when you feel like a fraud. It's when you don't feel like you deserve your success and you think you got lucky or that people are going to find out you're not actually that smart or capable. So if you've ever thought these kinds of thoughts, you may be experiencing imposter syndrome. And research shows us that people who are neurodivergent are more likely to experience imposter syndrome. In fact, one study found that 70% of people with ADHD experience imposter syndrome and another study found that 68% of autistic adults experience imposter syndrome. So why are neurodivergent folks more likely to experience imposter syndrome? Well, let's talk about that. We'll start with a little bit of history. Back in 2011, a group of researchers surveyed over 300 college students and asked them if they experienced symptoms of imposter syndrome. They also gave them a bunch of other surveys. They measured their personality and their levels of trait anxiety and trait depression. And then they also looked at how much the students endorsed with certain diagnostic criteria for ADHD and autism. So they were able to look at the relationship between imposter syndrome and then ADHD and autism. And what they found was that those who scored higher on measures of inattention and hyperactivity and impulsivity, which are symptoms of ADHD, were more likely to experience imposter syndrome. And those who scored high on measures of social and communication difficulties and restricted and repetitive behaviors, which are diagnostic criteria for autism, were also more likely to experience imposter syndrome. So this was one of the first studies that showed a relationship between imposter syndrome and ADHD and autism. But another group of researchers wanted to see if there were differences in how imposter syndrome showed up for those with ADHD compared to those with autism. So they took the original 2011 study and replicated it. They used the same measure of imposter syndrome and the same measure of ADHD and autism. But this time they split the participants into two groups, one group identified as having ADHD, the other group identified as autistic. And what they found was that the themes that emerged from each group were quite different. In the ADHD group, the themes that emerged had to do with being unprepared. So feeling like you're winging it through life, not actually knowing what you're doing, but managing to get by anyway. So people in this group described things like, I feel like people think I know what I'm doing, but I'm just making it up as I go. Or I feel like I'm a fraud because I didn't follow the typical path to success. These are examples of what we call agentic imposterism, which is feeling like you succeeded through luck or happenstance and not through skill. In the autism group, though, the themes that emerged were more around feeling socially awkward and like you don't belong. So they described feeling like an outsider looking into a club that they weren't invited to and feeling like they couldn't relate to others or that they couldn't trust others. So people in this group said things like, I feel like people wouldn't like me if they really got to know me. Or I feel like I'm not really part of the club, even though I'm here. These are examples of what we call communal imposterism, aka imposter syndrome, which is feeling like you're inadequate because you don't fit in with the group or that you're somehow less than others. So both of these experiences are valid and both are associated with imposter syndrome. But this research suggests that the reasons why we feel this way are going to be different depending on whether our brains work more like those with ADHD or those with autism. Let's take the ADHD brain, for example. One of the challenges that people with ADHD brains have is that it's hard for them to feel well organized and prepared. Their working memory isn't great. So they might have trouble keeping track of all the little details that are expected of them. And their executive functioning challenges mean that they often feel overwhelmed and that starting tasks is difficult. So if you're in a neurotypical world that values being organized and prepared, this can lead to feelings of incompetence. And so people with ADHD brains are more likely to experience agentic imposterism, which is feeling like a fraud because you aren't as put together as everyone else. Agentic imposterism means inability to act independently and make choices. Involves personal agency. Now let's take the autistic brain. One of the challenges that people with autistic brains have is that it's hard for them to navigate the social world. Social rules and expectations are often unclear to them. And social interactions can feel draining and overwhelming. So if you're in a neurotypical world that values fitting in and being socially adept, this can lead to feelings of isolation and inadequacy. And so people with autistic brains are more likely to experience communal imposterism, which is feeling like a fraud because you're not as socially adept as everyone else. Communal imposterism, cultural form of imposter syndrome. It's important to remember that not everyone with an ADHD brain or an autistic brain will experience imposter syndrome. And not everyone who experiences imposter syndrome has an ADHD brain or an autistic brain. But the research does suggest that these experiences may contribute to imposter syndrome. So now that we understand why neurodivergent folks are more likely to experience imposter syndrome, the question becomes, what can we do about it? Well, there are lots of resources out there for how to overcome imposter syndrome. And we're going to link some of them in the description. But I'll give you 3 general tips that have been shown to help. First, reframe your narrative. When you catch yourself thinking thoughts like I'm a fraud or I got lucky, reframe that thought. Try to come up with a more balanced way of looking at the situation. For example, instead of saying I got lucky, say I worked hard and I'm talented and those things helped me succeed. Second, focus on your accomplishments. Keep a running list of your accomplishments and refer back to that list when you need a reminder of how talented and capable you are. You can keep this list on your phone or in a journal. Just keep it somewhere you can easily access it. Some could be as simple as I got up today. Or I brushed my teeth today. Be kind to yourself. And third, reach out for support. Talk to a trusted friend, family member, or therapist about your experience. Oftentimes, just voicing your feelings can make them less overwhelming. It can also be helpful to hear others say, I've been there too. There are also groups online where you can connect with others who understand what you're going through. So whether you have an ADHD brain or an autistic brain or a neurotypical brain, know that imposter syndrome can affect anyone. It's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It just means that you're a human being. And human beings are imperfect. We all experience self-doubt and sometimes we struggle to recognize our own competence. But the good news is that we can learn to overcome these feelings. We can learn to reframe our narratives. We can learn to focus on our accomplishments and we can learn to reach out for support when we need it. Okay. That's it for today. Thank you to my supporters for supporting this channel. I appreciate it. Welcome any newcomers. As always, I want to thank my brain for allowing me to experience the world in this unique way so that I can make videos like this for all of you. And I hope you'll take care of your brains and be kind to yourself. Let's figure this out together, and don't forget to subscribe to your own courage. Please don't feed the trolls. All they want is attention. Not the right kind. So go on ignoring them. Bye.